I've been skipping breakfast lately. These days I only have 2 meals a day because I just wake up, exercise, shower, film like ASMR stuff, and then by the time I'm done, really, it's towards lunchtime. By the time I've done everything, no, I wake up, I read my Bible, pray, and then I work out. These days I set a timer when I shower because I used to take like 30-minute showers or longer, 40 minutes. Now it's like I set the timer like 10 minutes to brush my teeth and shower. 10 minutes total. So I'm in the shower for less than 5 minutes these days, which is great. Saving a lot of time. But yeah, once I've done everything, you read Bible, pray, work out, shower, film ASMR. By the time I'm done with all that, like, it's 12 or towards 12. And I'm like, I haven't had breakfast yet. So then, like, the meal is just lunch. And then I have dinner. Today I woke up a bit late, so it's approaching 12 right now. And I have not eaten a thing, and my stomach is like, bro. But you know, it is what it is. They said breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I guess. Anyway, I have whatchamacallit? I have an album out. I released an album. It's called Forget Me Nots and Camellias. It's 12 songs on there. The link is in the description. I'd really appreciate anyone checking it out. I've been listening to it over and over and over again, and I like it. And I would like everyone else to listen to it as well and support me in that regard. The link's in the description. Thank you and thank you. Yeah, it really means a lot, guys, to check that out. It would go a long way in supporting me. So please do. Please do. Then I also have a poetry book called The Many Shades of Flowers. 40 love poems, $1. The link is in the description for that as well. Leave me 5 stars. Leave me a 5-star rating. That'd be greatly appreciated. Investing in many parts of Africa. They committed like $51 billion to the African continent now. Where in the African continent? I don't know. People treat Africa like it's a country. Oh, jeez, man. Got 50... How many countries does this continent have? How many countries in Africa?
54 countries, according to...
That's enough, Google. 54 countries, guys. 54 countries. Which are very different from each other, by the way. Different cultures, different religions, different policies, just different philosophies, different everything. 54 countries. You just can't lump them together. I live in South Africa, which is very different from Nigeria, which is those are very, very far apart, which is very different from Cameroon, which is very different from Ethiopia, which is very different from Kenya, which is very different. They're like these are very different countries. Egypt, like, the list goes on and on and on. But you know, China did say they're committing $51 billion to Africa. What does that mean? I know that here in South Africa, they've got some development projects they're working on some development here. I remember reading about these residential areas they want to build, and I saw the concepts for that, like what they want to build here. I'm like, that looks nice. There's been a very concerted effort I've noticed in developments, especially like with regards to apartment blocks, just in general. Here in Johannesburg, South Africa, I've noticed like a lot of estates and apartment complexes being built. I live, like, let me not like say where I live, but I live in an area where bro, like it just seems like every day there's some new development starting. There's a place nearby, like there's an area that I used to go walking in my neighborhood. And, when you walk far enough, it becomes very rural. If you go far enough, and it's like a lot of houses with big plots of land and big fields, and some places even have horses, and the roads, like it becomes like a dirt road and stuff like that. Like it becomes rural, almost like countryside. But now they're kind of, people are upset because they're taking that area, which had this charm about it. It felt very laid back and country in a way. Now they're developing these very modern apartment complexes there, and they're obviously going to have to start paving roads and modernizing the whole area. And yeah, that particular part of the neighborhood is going to lose that charm, and it's probably going to become a lot more busy and noisy as a result, because especially during the construction phase, as they're bringing in all this construction, things are definitely quite noisy. And then you're gonna see malls opening up there, and maybe schools, and it's just gonna become a very busy place. Pros and cons to that: more industry means more money and jobs and all that sort of stuff, which is nice. But I imagine the residents who were there initially are gonna be like, "Ah." But these are like big houses, so these are the wealthy people that stay in that area for the most part. For all the property, because all those houses were quite big. So I'd imagine the ones going to be peace and quiet. But anyway, I say all that to say I've just been noticing all this development happening, and it's kind of also getting in on it, all this development, and yeah, it's scary getting into bed with communists, because the Chinese government literally communists, like the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, literally in their name, they're literally communists. Wait, hold on. I was just confirming that little bit of information. Yeah, still the CCP, blatantly communist. And there's concern there, but I always think about how I think you can always. I think when it comes to business, let people follow their incentives. People will always follow their own best interests. So if you can find a way to make that benefit you as well, if you can create a deal where someone is still allowed to pursue their own interests while also enriching you in the process, I think it's a win-win. So with China, the hope is that like all these African leaders don't get stiffed. I can see why China would want to invest in development and whatnot. They're trying to bolster their own economy, because there's concerns about imperialism, neo-colonialism, all this sort of stuff, right? There's concerns about that, but I think in reality, all they're trying to do is strike some business deals that they can also profit off of. I imagine when they're starting all these development projects here in South Africa, like they're going to employ Chinese workers. We've got a sizable Chinese population here. They'll probably import some as well to work on these developments, while also integrating some of the the South African population as well. That's going to be interesting. Like what percentage of South Africans get employed versus Chinese and all that sort of stuff. We'll see. But yeah, they stand to benefit, and jobs will be created, like I said, and so a lot of these apartments will be rented out. So we'll see who profits from what. But yeah, I think both parties stand to benefit from that. They've talked about building railway infrastructure as well, which is welcome. And yeah, China's economy is not doing great right now. They are a world economic power, but as of late, the yen hasn't been doing too well, and their dealings on the international stage with regards to trade hasn't been great. You know, Apple moved it's the majority of its operations out of China and into India. So they've been taking major hits like that, and they've been falling behind when it comes to certain areas of production, with, like, for example, chip production. They aren't doing great. They don't have great chips, like the chips that run all these devices, such as this card machine and your phones and your cars and your like high-tech chips. They don't make a lot of high-tech chips. That's found in Taiwan. Taiwan is probably the best manufacturer of chips in the world, and that's why China wants to invade them. They are salivating at the prospect of invading Taiwan, but no one wants to let them. They're just waiting for the right moment to do that. Yeah, I don't know if it'll happen, but if it does, that's going to set off a chain of events that might be very scary to witness. So hopefully that never happens. But yeah, their economy is not doing great, and their population is dwindling. They have a population crisis, which might sound crazy to some people, because they'll be like, oh, China has like a humongous population. What do you mean the population is dwindling? Let's actually Google. What is China's population?
In 2022, the population of China was 1,412,175,000.
So 1.4 billion people. So people will hear that and be like, China is not a population of America. I can explain. First of all, people have a very surface level understanding of population and demographics. They don't understand that even if a country has a big number with regards to its population, that doesn't always mean what you think it means. First of all, as society expands, population needs to expand as well. So when we see civilization, as civilization expands, populations need to expand as well. So we see all these buildings and railway systems and airplanes and this and that, and complex water networks and electricity networks, and all this stuff needs to be maintained. It needs to be maintained. So as your infrastructure develops, you need more and more and more people to maintain it. Otherwise, the burden of work increases until it's not manageable. It's just not manageable. It's too much work for a small group of people to handle. I always talk about the analogy I always use is like the difference between running a corner shop where you've got, the foot traffic of maybe a few dozen people every few hours, right? Versus running a major supermarket, or rather running a mall full of all these different stores. Obviously, the amount of people needed to operate the corner shop versus operate the mall are going to be very, very different. And there's going to be a much more sophisticated network required to operate the mall. We're talking about trucks that bring products in and out. We're talking about accountants. We're talking about all of workers that are responsible for sanitation, for maintenance, for this, for that, people operating tills. It's a very vast network of people, and you need people. Now, China in particular, they have a problem because they're not reproducing. China is one of the biggest. It probably has the biggest production industry in the world. Everything is made in China. That, like, the whole made in China joke. But it's like, obviously we know that so much of the world's products come from China. But like I said, Apple moved its operations out of China into India for various reasons. And on top of that, the workforce is dwindling. For a long time, they had a one-child policy where you're only allowed to have one child, and it had to be a boy. And if you had a girl, they'd literally kill the girl, which was evil. But that went on for a long time, and that greatly affected the country's demographics. So now you have, let's Google, what percentage of China's population are men?
51.01%, according to trading.
So 51%. 51%. So that extra 1.01% is actually a big deal. But yeah, there's slightly more men. Yeah, it's slightly. When we're talking about 1.4 billion people, is 1% of 1 billion slightly more? It's millions. It's like wait, this is embarrassing. I had to quickly check what 1% of 1 billion is. I should know this, but it was on the spot. So around 14 million would be 1% of 1 billion. We've got excess of 14 million men. That's gonna create some challenges in the dating market, I'm sure, and then other complications besides just that. And then you also have to consider like what percentage of the population is old, what percentage of the population is like children. So of those two groups, obviously they're not going to be massive contributors to the economy. Some are they're too young, and others are too old. So then when you boil it down like that, you start to see, okay, and also in the next 10, because people die, so, and when people are dying, but you're not reproducing, it means those populations just get shaved off and they're not replaced. So what percentage of the working taxpayers are being replaced in the next 10, 20 years? So China's not going to look anything like what it looks like now in the next 10, 20 years, in the next generation, and the generation after that. We're predicting a dismal resource production in the coming 100 years. So, they are smart to start investing in other countries around the world, and they're looking at Africa as fertile ground. Africa's rich in resources. Till this day, we're still dealing with countries like France illegally extracting a lot of resources. That's a serious issue, but yeah, it's happening around Northern Africa and many other parts of Africa as well. But despite all the theft, the continent is still rich in resources, and if we can just get competent leaders to take advantage of that and stop doing shady deals with these foreign actors, these foreign agents, start putting the people of these African countries first. If they can get that right, then Africa can have a real chance at developing as an entire continent. There are countries getting it right. Kenya's developing. South Africa is quite well developed. It's the most developed African country. I don't want to say by far, but it's a considerable gap. Namibia is doing quite well. The island of Zanzibar, which is part of Tanzania, the nation Tanzania, it's doing quite well. Burkina Faso, I've been hearing good things, but it still has a way to go. Rwanda, it still has a lot of challenges, but one of the things people have noted about Rwanda, which is, again, it's still developing, but it's received new leadership recently, and one of the things people have been saying is very clean and very safe, which is a nice development, and it still has a ways to go. It still has a lot of development that needs to take place, but it's on the up and up. So the African continent is just growing. It's developing at a slow pace. There still needs to be some bureaucracy that needs to be sorted out. A lot of these inefficient leaders need to be booted out. But the new president of Burkina Faso, he's showing promise. He did something that people like. I think he kicked out, was it the French? One of these European countries. He refused to do any business with them because these people have been stealing resources for a long time and getting away with it. Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, called out Emmanuel Macron, President of France, because he likes to lecture people on environmentalism and climate change and all these sort of things. But she was saying you're a hypocrite because behind closed doors, you people are pillaging a lot of these African countries. She pointed that out. Like you're a clown. You're a liar. So these things are happening. It's not a woke talking point or anything like that. These some of these European countries are genuinely engaging in theft and just bad economic practices that place a lot of these African countries in debt. It makes it very hard for these countries to develop. It keeps them poor. But it's also partly the fault of leaders who sell out, like African leaders who sell out. And in doing so, keep their people poor as well. So new leadership is needed. So in Burkina Faso, the one guy, I think he kicked out the French. He said, we're not doing this. And he used his budget to buy he used part of his budget to buy a bunch of trucks because they want to start engaging in agriculture because, again, a lot of these countries are very fertile, a lot of resources, so they also start farming and selling crops and all these sort of things and creating jobs. So he bought a bunch of, I don't know how many trucks. So they're going to begin development in that regard and become an agricultural power, hopefully. We'll see. But it's showing a lot of promise. He's also very young, which is encouraging. You need fresh ideas. Age by itself is not necessarily a marker for that, but young people tend to live longer and have more energy and all that sort of stuff. People having a lot of old people for a long time. People want improvements in that regard. They want energy. They want strength. So it's a welcome change. So we'll see. So, if countries like that can receive investments that is mutually beneficial for them and the investors, I think we can see great development. But it's ultimately up to the countries that are being invested in to make the most of it. Because what can end up happening is that China invests this $51 billion and these leaders just take the money and squander it. And then China will just be like, never again. Hell no. I don't know what securities they have on these investments. I don't know how they're going to make sure they get a return on investment. But it's a strong possibility that corruption will just swallow all that money and nothing happens. So we're gonna need leaders who can like take charge and use the money for what it's actually meant for. Don't buy a house, don't buy a car, don't send your kids to private school, all this nonsense that they always do when they get a payday. Like actually use the money for what it's meant for. We'll see. But yeah, that deal is showing promise. That deal is showing a lot of promise, and we'll see. Again, you know, you're always worrisome about going into bed with communists, but like I said, just trust people to pursue their own interests while also being guarded and making sure you're also benefiting from things. And it'll be very hard for them to stiff you, for them to trick you if you understand what's going on and you structure things in a way that's mutually beneficial. You know, right now, I don't think we have the luxury of choice. It's high time that we develop. South Africa is very developed. A lot of parts of Africa are actually very, very developed. I think sometimes people in the West and just around the world in general have a misconception of what's actually going on in the African continent. It's just a bunch of animals roaming around and people walking bare feet, and there's no roads, and I don't know what image people have, but it's like we have a lot of the same amenities any other country might have, especially here in South Africa, here in Johannesburg. I don't know, like, we have high-speed trains, you got all the Ubers and Bolts and all that public transportation and all the fancy malls and restaurants, all this sort of stuff. I just think, yeah, South Africa's doing okay. I just think when you go to other countries, they need more development because they might have cities, they might have pockets of very well developed areas. So you might go to Nigeria and go to Lagos, for example, in Nigeria, and it's like, oh, it's quite well developed. But then you go to other parts of Nigeria, like, ooh, the poverty here is shocking. Shocking poverty. So I think we need development across the board. I think that's what's needed. So this is an opportunity. And yeah, man. It's very promising. You think about Singapore, which just a few decades ago was poor. It was a nation that wasn't really talked about. You could have placed it in the same category as a lot of these other African countries, and they would be indistinguishable just in terms of the poverty and lack of development. And this is just a few decades ago. But you fast forward to now, Singapore is one of the cleanest, safest, most technologically advanced places on the planet. They're some of the best banks. People love to bank in Singapore, and they're attracting a lot of highly skilled medical professionals and all these sort of things. Like, I know a girl that moved to Singapore to work there, to study there, and I think she's working there. All these sort of things. So I think Singapore is the place to be. And in fact, so many people wanted to go there and were investing there and getting property there that they basically have closed things off now. Where it's like it's very hard to get into Singapore now. Like, to become a resident and a citizen, it's very difficult just because they were attracting so many people. But it started out not in a good place. So it's very, very possible for nations to develop, and I think these things happen in cycles, and we're starting to see a lot of growth in a lot of African countries, and we're seeing, you know, China investing, and I think Russia has also been investing. Like you look at the UAE, Dubai was nothing just a few decades ago. It was just a stretch of desert. And someone came and built Dubai, like literally just a few decades ago. And now look at Dubai and look at many parts of the UAE. So these things can happen very quickly. It can happen like in the blink of an eye, guys. It can happen unbelievably quickly, which is a testament to human ingenuity and will, but also like the technology we have these days. I think we're going to start to see unbelievable unbelievable rates of development. Countries going from 0 to 100 in an unbelievable amount of time, which is very encouraging. We just need the right leadership to take us there. And I think we're starting to see that. We're starting to see people start to screw their heads on a bit tighter. A bit tighter. We'll see. Hopefully, sooner rather than later, these necessary changes take place. But yeah, I'm optimistic. I've seen good things. This in the past year, South Africa was struggling with an electricity crisis. We call it load shedding, where the power would go off almost every single day, basically every single day. This went on for like a year, or maybe a little bit less than a year. I'm not sure. It felt like a year. It was long, and it got to the point where there didn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel, pun intended. It just felt like this could be the case forever. The country Zimbabwe, which is where I was born actually before I moved to South Africa, but I've been in South Africa most of my life. But I was born in Zim. It's had a similar situation with electricity, but they never really recovered. And it's basically a thing there for the power to just go out at random parts of the day and vanish for 12 hours. You can spend the whole day without any electricity, and this happens pretty much every day. Power just coming and going, and they never really figured that situation out. It hasn't improved. So when we started seeing signs of that here in South Africa, we're very scared. Like people were wondering, like, is this just going to become another Zimbabwe situation? But past couple months, after the Rugby World Cup happened, and we noticed that the power wasn't going out anymore. And after that, we didn't experience these issues. That was months ago. And we haven't really been experiencing load shedding ever since. And they recently released news that now the new issue is that there's too much electricity. They're having to turn off some of these power plants because they're not being used anymore. So I think there's been a shift. I think I was hearing about hydro energy being supplied from our neighbors as well, and all sorts of initiatives being implemented to help with the electric grid and the energy infrastructure. So I think a lot of these solutions are finally being put into place, and it's been many months since we've experienced load shedding, which is encouraging. Hopefully that issue doesn't arise again. We'll see. We're not that far removed from that crisis, but we'll see. But I'm hoping they figure that out, because now they're saying that there's actually an overabundance of energy, which is encouraging. The annoying thing? The annoying thing is a lot of these Western countries talking about their climate policies, saying you shouldn't use coal anymore because it's bad for the environment and yada yada yada. Not realizing that if we implement a lot of these green policies of theirs, it's going to push us back to square one, where we can't develop anymore, because the West used a lot of fossil fuels and all this sort of stuff to develop itself, and now what they're trying to do is tell other countries that they're not allowed to do the same thing. Nope, not going to work. We also want to develop, and we're going to need to use a lot of these materials and resources to build our societies. So yeah, man, we're just gonna have to deal with it. Because wind and solar, they're not constant, they're not consistent, and it's very expensive. And these wind farms, they kill birds. People don't talk about that. It kills a lot of birds, these windmills. But anyway, so that's going to be happening for a while. The burning of that energy, coal, and so on and so forth. A lot of oil. We're gonna be using that as well. to develop ourselves until we're at the point where we can have conversations about maybe moving on to other cleaner energy sources. But yeah, you can't genuinely look at someone and say, be poor, sacrifice yourself for us. No, you do that and we will develop ourselves. Leave us alone. So yeah, it's complicated. I hope YouTube doesn't put that damn notice under my video, because if you mention, I shouldn't have used the word climate change term. I shouldn't have used that, because if YouTube hears that term and they pick up on it, they might flag your video and be like, oh, and provide all these notices, like trying to make it seem like I'm saying something crazy. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see. I have to pray for this video to do well. You know, I have to pray at the end of my videos. If you made it to the end of the video, drop a planet emoji, drop an earth emoji, drop an emoji of earth, talking about the world, or talking about global affairs and all this sort of things. Drop an earth emoji if you made it to the end. But yeah, you know, I like to pray at the end of my videos. Dear Father God, thank you for this individual watching us right now. Thank you for making them whole, unique, and guide them on a path towards peace, prosperity, and purpose. Thank you for blessing this person with wonderful people in their life. Love them, take care of them, bring the absolute best out of them. And thank you for maintaining the ones that are there to do the same thing. Thank you for blessing this person with love and marriage, and sustaining that love and marriage, and making it very, very, very happy. Thank you for blessing this person with a spirit of gratitude so they can give thanks all the wonderful things in their life. And by giving thanks, they can find peace, contentment, and attract even more blessings. Let your presence be felt in this person's life so they know that you're God, that you're real, that you love them, and you're always going to be there for them. Good health, long life, and happiness over this person and everyone you care about, everyone they care about. In my name I pray, in Jesus' name I pray, amen. And